Red Rising is a 2014 dystopian sci-fi novel by an author named Pierce Brown. At first, Red Rising looks like that billionth copy of Hunger Games but in space. But by the end of the series, it actually blossoms and transforms into something completely unique. Now, the series didn't just become popular on its own. It changed what readers were expecting they were going to get when they actually began flipping those pages. If you haven't read Red Rising, fear not, because there's no spoilers in this entire video. Although I do recommend you read this book completely blind. A quick summary of Red Rising: it begins in a future where humanity has spread to the farthest reaches of the solar system. But the society they live in is actually divided into a dark, color-based hierarchy. This hierarchy stretches over 14 different colors, where red is at the very bottom and gold is at the top. These reds are actually slave miners in Mars, completely convinced they are prepping Mars for the future generations. One of these reds is Darrow. Once after he discovered everything he knew in his entire life was a lie, and after he suffered the loss of his wife, Io, from a hanging. He's recruited by a revolutionary group that is entirely determined to destroy the society and the hierarchy that they have built. So to do that, Darrow undergoes a very painful but life-changing transformation that disguises himself as a gold. And this surgery changed how he looked. He was taller, more muscular. He enters the Institute, an elite academy tailored to the golds and their traditions. This is where the powerful families train the next generation of leaders through a twisted competition built on war and politics. But what first began as a disguised infiltration mission quickly changes and grows into something bigger. Over the next several books, which was at first meant to be a trilogy, now waiting for the 7th book to release, the story expands from a battle between students to a full-on space war, involving insane plot twists that most people can wrap their heads around: revolution, war, and impossible moral decisions. Now, that's the story on paper, but plot alone isn't what made Red Rising so fantastic. In fact, if you looked at the premise of the story, you'd be convinced it was just another Hunger Games clone. So, what makes Red Rising so special? Why did this series become so much bigger than it was expected to be? Red Rising is a confusing book that twists its genre completely. If you ask 10 people what Red Rising is, you'll probably get 10 different answers, because some people call it dystopian, others say it's military science fiction, and others even think it's political drama. Somehow, they're all right. Red Rising has political drama, it has space opera, even fantasy disguised as sci-fi. Normally a series that tries to be all those things ends up feeling unfocused. But Red Rising somehow does the opposite. The series doesn't abandon one genre for another. It layers them together until it becomes something uniquely its own. If you're enjoying this video so far, consider leaving a like. It really helps the channel grow. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be answering what makes Red Rising good. Instead, I'll be answering what expectations does Red Rising challenge from the reader. And one huge example from this is that it trusts the reader. So it's something that Pierce Brown does exceptionally well at. Most books usually explain everything, but Red Rising doesn't. He doesn't feed you every little bit of information that you think you would need or want. And I believe that's why Pierce Brown is one of my favorite authors. It's because he rarely stops the story. Instead, he kind of just throws the reader into conversations and conflicts, trusting them to really piece the world together just from these interactions that we get throughout the story. Red Rising doesn't try to just satisfy the readers instantly. It rewards commitment. Every book builds on the last. The characters, the relationships, and the ideas introduced early often become more meaningful hundreds or even thousands of pages later. It's a series that rewards the patience and the commitment instead of demanding immediate gratification. And another thing I want to commend Pierce Brown for is that he writes momentum. His pacing, I'd want to say, is insane. Notice how the chapters usually end. Questions, revelations, promises, decisions. Readers constantly feel like I need to read one more chapter. And that is why people burn through the 700-page books in days. And the series assumes its readers can actually keep up, doesn't over-explain, doesn't constantly remind you who everyone is. It doesn't interrupt dramatic moments to make sure you understand every detail. Instead, it trusts you just to connect the dots. So why does Red Rising inspire the kind of obsession that few modern series actually ever achieve? It's not because it does one thing better than every other book, it's because it does almost everything exceptionally well. The characters feel human. No one simply exists to be a hero or a villain. Every major character actually has their own ambitions and fears. When you disagree with someone's decisions, you usually understand why they made them. And readers don't just pick their favorite characters, they actually start to defend them. And Red Rising actually does a good job at showing and actually not telling. A lot of series constantly tell you the stakes are going to be high, but Red Rising actually makes you see them and feel it. Every victory isn't just a victory, it has consequences. And every mistake actually matters that Darrow makes throughout the story. And readers really learn very quickly that actions do have lasting effects. The series earns its attention because it convinces you that nothing is going to be guaranteed throughout the story. Chapters are short, but dialogue is sharp, and scenes rarely overstay their welcome. It's the kind of series where when you read one page or a chapter, you want to read more and more. But this begs to ask the question, if Red Rising is so beloved, why is there a community that doesn't like it? The first reason is the beginning isn't for everyone. Sure, the first part feels more like a traditional YA dystopian novel, but some readers stop before the series even reveals what makes it unique. Secondly, there's definitely a learning curve. There are dozens of factions, political relationships, and complex characters, families' names, and some people love figuring it out, but others it could seem to overwhelm them and dissuade them from actually continuing to read more. For some people, that's exactly why it makes it unforgettable. For others, it's simply just too much and overwhelming. Some people expect non-stop action, but instead, much of the story is going to be driven by the political maneuverments, personal relationships, and strategy. If that's not someone's style, they might not like the story that much. In the end, Red Rising isn't perfect, and it 100% isn't for everyone. Its opening can feel too familiar, and its world can be overwhelming. Its intensity demands commitment to the series for sure, but for the readers it connects with, it becomes far more than just another sci-fi series. But maybe that's why it's so difficult to describe. Some people remember the battles, others remember the politics, others remember the characters. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed. This is my first upload, and I plan to make more videos like this, covering books, stories, and maybe branching out more in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're a Red Rising fan, let me know your favorite book in the comments.